I think you definitely need to make a tech portfolio. You need to make sure that you have certain things that you can show who you are to these hiring managers because everyone is just a name nowadays. And I work right next to the recruiting department for I work for another $1 billion software.
Today's interview is extra inspirational. I don't want to spoil it too much, but the guy I interviewed basically got injured at work a couple of times, like pretty badly, enough to where he couldn't work there anymore, and he was in a really tough spot. But he ended up finding the IT course somehow, and he executed on everything really, really well, and ended up landing a nice job in IT. And he actually became a creator as well, talking about tech things. So yeah, it's definitely an inspirational interview for those of you who are like interested in getting into IT and you're in a completely like unrelated field. This will be like a really good watch for you. So yeah, check it out. Hey everybody, Josh Madakor here. I'm an IT and cybersecurity YouTuber and course careers instructor, and we have Nemesio here who went through the course careers IT course, and then he ended up getting a job afterwards, and he agreed to come on and chat with us about that. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here.
Appreciate that. So if you don't mind, do you want to do like a brief introduction and then maybe talk to us a bit about what you were doing before you decided to get into IT?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Nemesio Salgado. I actually have the channel Big Bro Tech. It's on YouTube and it's on TikTok. But before that, I actually was completely a novice in regards to like tech and anything like that. I was a FedEx driver. And I was driving for FedEx for about 3 years after the pandemic. After that, I injured myself 2 times in the end of my FedEx career. Fell off the FedEx truck, slid down the stairs, reached back, shoulder popped out.
Oh,
Was no fun. Yeah, happened one time,
damn.
and hospital. It was a whole thing, workers' comp. But then when it happened the second time, I was like 25, 20, 26. Yeah, about 26. I had to get surgery.
Damn.
Doctor was like, you can never ever work a manual labor job again. Your arm will have to be in a sling for the rest of your life. Like you're gonna really mess things up. So
God.
at that point, I was I was a college dropout. Tried school. I failed a class, lost a scholarship. Wasn't trying to take any more student loans out. I tried sales. The quotas killed me, man. Like I couldn't deal with the quotas over my head. So then I tried doing FedEx. I tried being an electrical apprentice while I was doing FedEx. That wasn't for me. So I was just trying to go do FedEx. Injured a bunch off of FedEx. Doctor told me no more manual labor.
Damn.
So, eventually it got to the point where it was like, you need to do something else. You're 26 years old. You're living at home with your mom. You have no skills. And yeah, man. So that's when I actually found your program through my friend. He disappeared on me. Dude got a $60,000 IT job just out of nowhere at a bank. I'm like, IT, bro? Like, what does that even mean? And yeah, man, he was just preaching at me. He was actually preaching at me before I got injured the second time. But I just was like, man, I'm just going to stay at my FedEx. Like, I don't know what you're really talking about. And once I got injured, I was like, I have to, like, I need a lead into something to do with my life. And my friend, I had seen that, what he was doing. So I was like, okay, this has got to be something. I've got nothing else to do. So he sent me all these videos of yours. He sent me, I just went down the rabbit hole, man. I was researching CompTIA and researching help desk and all this stuff. And eventually when I got injured, watched the video with him and you. I think it had like 15,000 views. Once I saw that video, I was like, okay, this is like some real deal stuff. I listened to how you talked. You were very calm and you had a way of speaking that was like, I think it doesn't seem that difficult. Definitely it was a lot of work that I put in, but I got the course. And from then on, I just went as hard as I possibly could. And now here we are.
Well, that's a very inspirational story. I feel like I don't even need to like resume the interview. It's like enough for people. But
no, man. Yeah, no, it's been a crazy journey, but you know what I'm saying? I'm blessed.
Yeah, good job on your execution. That's tough. I'm sorry to hear that you got injured like twice so young. That's like really, it's like can't be easy.
Yeah, no, it was definitely scary and went through a point of depression, just trying to,
Damn.
find out how I can be a productive member of society. At that point, my girlfriend, I live by the college in UCF. I met my girlfriend. She's finishing up school at UCF. And so she was ended up having come to move with me and my mother. So she had her apartment. Situation was crazy, but I'm 26 years old. I got my girlfriend living with me in my mom's apartment. It was like I had to really. It was like look yourself in the mirror. Like, what kind of man do you want to be? And yeah, man. So I took your program, and every single thing that you spoke on, I tried to, like, you broke everything down in tiers, and I tried to S tier everything,
Mm.
and it's been working so far.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Um, can I ask, like, for you, like, how long did it take, like, once you actually signed up for the course, like, how long did it take you to get through the whole thing before you started job hunting?
Yeah, so I tell everybody I'm a unique case because I was on workers' comp, right? I was on my last month. I knew that the checks weren't coming anymore, and I had to make sure that I went crazy, right? So I did the course. I would wake up at 8:30 and do the course till 3:30 every single day, like what
Wow.
my girlfriend was doing for her job. I did that for 2.5 weeks and completed the course.
Oh, nice.
And after I did that for 2.5 weeks, I applied for 2 more weeks, and I landed my first IT contract at Walt Disney, which was crazy.
Oh, wow. So, like, 5 weeks from start
Yeah.
to working or getting a job?
Yeah, man, like 4.5 weeks
Damn.
from locking down. I'm talking about crazy, like in the morning and to night, like not to nighttime, but 8, 9 hour day of studying, of just becoming a beast, right?
Mm.
And I did that for 2.5 weeks. I had that portfolio, I had the cover letter, I had the resume, and then it was at that point it was like, okay, now let me like build myself into like the best job seeker that you could find, right? So
Mm.
it was building myself into like a really good entry IT guy, but then building myself into just like an amazing job hunter.
Yes.
And 2 weeks of just probably, it was really honestly less than I tell people to do, right? I tell people 250 to 1,000 a month. I probably got this one in like 180 to 220 in that 2 week span. Two jobs that I gotten some interest in,
Hmm.
and eventually I got the contract with Accenture,
Oh, yeah.
which is like one of the bigger company. Yeah, I found out that they're one of the bigger like staffing IT consultants.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
help people get in. You can get in with like Apple and all. So I got in with Disney, and I was the on-site application analyst there, whatever that means. Just a title they gave me,
Hmm.
but it was thrown right into the lion's den, and it was a crazy experience.
And did you say like 100 or 180 to 220 applications you put out? And then
Yeah, about 180 to 220, no quick applies.
that's not too bad, to be honest. That's like a pretty quick.
Yeah, like two kind of good chances, right? Out of those 180 to 220, which is crazy. That's like 1%, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no.
And when you say like no quick applies, you like crafted each application kind of specific to the job, or how is that what you meant?
I just think that the quick apply is not a good way of applying. I've done like a lot of research, right? And you want to apply on the job website. So a lot of times the quick apply will just apply on the job portal that you're on. Like, let's say you're on Indeed or LinkedIn, right? It'll apply on that portal.
Hmm.
The recruiter will have to go and then it's a whole extra friction that you don't want to include into the application process. Click the link, go on the website, apply on the website, and I have a lot better results on the job, on the website of the job.
Gotcha. I think that's really good advice. I got to remember to like include that in my future content. So thanks.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, it's that's the way to go.
And then how can you talk about your well, yeah, I wanted to talk about your job because you got thrown in the lion's den, but before that, are you allowed to talk about
Yeah.
your interview process at all? Like did it go like as you expected? Like was it hard? Like
Oh
what
yeah.
kind of stuff did they ask?
Yeah. So it's definitely technical interviews, right? While going for that job, it was all my technical interviews were like we're doing right now, right? I use my phone. It was through Teams or Zoom. And so I developed quite a strategy that I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to tell the strategy because I think it's amazing. I don't know if they're going to figure out a way to make this not possible anymore. But essentially, this is what I would do. I'd set my phone up against a wall, and then I would pin all of my notes on the wall that are around my phone, right? Because I knew that the technical interview, if I had my notes, I would be fine, right? So I set all sorts of notes up of projects that I worked in, software that I was proficient in, skills that I had, all sorts of stuff. And so when these technical interviews would come, I realized, okay, recruiter, I know more about IT than the recruiter. So he's easy to get by, right? Number two is always going to be your hiring manager, right? So you need to make sure you win him, because if you win the hiring manager, he will make the less friction to the director, the top guy, right? So essentially, the second tech interview is going to be like the one you need to kick butt in. So once I started figuring that out, I started just treating these interviews like experience, like going into a basketball game and practice and getting better. You know,
Yes.
in like a college player going to the NBA. You know, they get more experience, and then every time I would go to these interviews, I would be better.
So that's really smart and a good point to bring up. Like, kind of the more you do something, the better intuition you have for it if you're like intentionally trying to get better. So I think that's really good.
Yeah.
Did you do any like rehearsal of practicing anticipated questions like on your own, or you only use like interviews themselves for practice?
No, no. Like I followed everything like your teachings like crazy, right? So you would like you set up like a in-depth response and question, and you were doing all sorts of question like mock questions, right? Got tons of videos about it too. And I would go through and listen to kind of how you would do your responses, and you had a cool way of tailoring responses for people that might not actually know everything yet, but still being able to flip it into something that sounded really good, right? So I like to say I was an inch deep, a mile wide, right? So I knew about a lot of things, but I didn't have in depth knowledge about them. So when interviews would come, I would be able to flip things I would flip things towards what I knew, and still, if I didn't know things, I would explain what I had a little bit of knowledge on, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I would try to make everything as clean as possible, and not like there any stutters or any I don't knows. I always had an answer to keep going.
Yeah, that's a good point for anyone's listening. There's always a better answer than no or I don't know. It's like, oh, I haven't done this yet, but it's on my list, or I've done this that's similar. You can always like say something, right? If you're aware of it, right?
Exactly. Exactly. It's like speaking like a politician, right? You ask a politician something, they don't might not answer your question, but they will tell you something that they want to tell you, right? So if you can flip it into something like that, it could work in an interview.
Cool. And then for your actual job, when you actually started working, how was that experience? Like you said, you got thrown into the lion's den. Like, did they give you any training, or was your actual job like the training itself?
Yeah, man. No, there was really no training. The training that I had was about Disney, right? And simply just like about the software that I needed to be proficient in, and really just kind of know how everything worked. I was kind of like the on the ground liaison for the IT department. So I would be at park entry, monitor that, and then I would move throughout the park and monitor a lot of things. There was no training. Yeah, no, it was basically I sold myself, and when I got into the job, it was just relying on everything that I had already built. Um, So it was a lot of, how do you say, faking it till you make it, because I'm coming as people are viewing me as a figure of authority because I'm going to duty manager meetings. I'm meeting with, the managers of the park. I'm meeting with all the people of all lines of business. They all have my personal phone number in case any IT issues.
Well,
So, I might be getting asked things that I don't know, but the same way I would do in an interview, right? I'm always directing things to what I do know. And it gave me like an ability, kind of like confidence in myself, because people were looking at me as an authority figure, and people are like, "Are you a leader?" Because I'm in the plain clothes, I have the name tag, I look like I was like a manager, and I'm always just sitting there, monitoring. I'm walking into the areas that they're like, "Who is this guy?" I had so many people like will come up to me and be like, like, who do you who do you work for? And I'm like, yeah, man, no, I'm the IT guy. Like, I could get into rides. I had backstage access to every part of
damn,
Disney,
damn.
all four parks, right? Yeah, no, it's crazy. So I was in a different park every day. I had to make relations with all of the ride, all the rides, all the lines of business in every land, the front, the park entry people, and it was just simply about making sure the ticketing software was working, make sure the POS systems were working, Wi-Fi was working at park entry. Manager's office, speeds are super slow. How are we going to fix that? Oh no, the Fast Pass system Genie Plus isn't working at Space Mountain. Please go over there and write a report. So it was just running all over the place, answering questions, but it's amazing for my resume, and it was an amazing experience for my first IT job.
That's crazy. That's really cool. That's a lot of experience, and I'm sure like some people watching this are wondering this. Like, what do you do when you just don't know how to fix something, or someone asks you something and you don't know? Like, what's your process, I guess, for handling those?
Yeah, so that would happen a lot of times, right? There would be people that would ask me, to fix a specific computer, troubleshoot specific issues, right? And so I had, and I learned, and I do this in my current job, right? And in IT, there's a clear separation of duties, right? And the scope of support that every department has. Everybody has their job. So you just have to figure out who does what and then relegate that to them, right? So, for example, there's an issue, they want me to fix this, right? Now, guys, engineering's got to come out here, right? I can coordinate with engineering, I can monitor the ticket, but I'm not going to be the one that fixes this.
Mm.
But I'll be like, but you guys have my number in case anything happens, right? Boom. Okay, bet. Now there could be another issue with, cell service and Wi-Fi. Okay, I know the telecom guy that has to come out here for this specific park. Let me make sure that he's on shift. Telecom's going to come out here and fix this. It's not me, right? So it was always making sure that people, if I couldn't fix that, right, I knew who could fix it, and I wanted to make sure I kept everybody in the loop, made sure the process was really smooth. If they asked me questions, I would Google it on my phone. If they asked me something like, oh, like, I don't know what's the local IP address here, and I'm trying to remember how local IP addresses are formatted. I'm like, oh god, and then so there's definitely times where I'm googling things, but it's being very quick on your feet is a skill that you have to have.
Yeah, that's really well said. A lot of people having imposter syndrome, like, oh, I'm not able to do it, or I don't know everything, like blah blah blah. But as long as you can be like resourceful and on a personal level, you're like good, like you said, like making sure everything is smooth and communicating. You can pretty much like make it work and figure stuff out and be like a good employee, right? That sounds like that's basically like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm trying to make the issue. If I can't fix it, I'm trying to at least make them know that they have some help. And I think a lot of times part of being a good IT professional is also having that people side, right? You can be as good technically as you want, but if you're standoffish, then they might not receive the stuff that you're giving them, right?
Yes.
It might go one ear out the other, and it's not a good experience for anybody.
Yeah, it sounds like in your position, even if your technical ability wasn't as good, if you have like really good interpersonal skills and you're like kind of like taking care of people, it sounds like they'll be fine with this. Is this like your sentiment?
Yeah. Yeah, in a $1 billion company like Disney, you know what I'm saying? So don't ever be scared when you're going into these roles, right? Just, go in there with as much energy as you can.
Cool. And I forgot to ask, are you allowed to talk about your salary range, and did you have to negotiate at all for this?
So I honestly was going by your range of above 40K. I was at $20 an hour, which mathematically comes out to like 41K, right? So that's where I was at. I thought that that was okay. I probably could have negotiated for more after doing some research into how much Disney pays them for the contract and then how much I'm actually given. But you live and you learn. I took the experience and I had a lot of free time to build my knowledge and apply for other jobs. So started off at 20 an hour and I worked in that position for 10 months. It was a 12-month contract, but I knew that, they're going to axe me. Eventually, after 18 months legally, they either had to hire me or fire me.
Oh, gotcha.
So I knew I wanted to get a permanent role, so I was out of that after 10 months.
Gotcha. And I think that's good, like the point that you raised about focusing on experience, because, for example, say that you're like, this is just a create, like, whatever example, but say you like, and cost of living is different in different places. But say you like, you want to hold out to make like 80K or something like this, right? And then maybe you ask them for 80K and then you say no, and then it takes you like much longer to get a job, but instead you just took 40K, and then all the meanwhile you got like a 10 months worth of like really strong experience where you can go and get like a way higher
Exactly.
paying job somewhere else. And like the hierarchy of things that people care about, employers to like hire you, is experience is like at the top, so it's kind of good to get that
It is.
sooner rather than later. So I think that's good.
Yeah, it is. And the crazy thing is, I never was given training from Disney, but companies don't know that. And so when you are very thorough and you go to the interviews, they're like, "Wow, Disney did great," and you're like, "They did. You're right." So you just kind of you kind of go, you roll with the flow.
Yeah, and a good way that what you said kind of like made me think about this. Like a good way to think about it is maybe you getting like $20 an hour to get trained. Essentially, that's essentially what your first job is.
Exactly. Exactly. And I had no problem with that. And that's the way I treated it mentally. I knew it wasn't forever, right? I just needed to I want to get as technically adept as possible.
Cool. And you came like a long way in a very short period of time, I would say. So like props to you on that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I was trying, you don't understand. I was going as hard as I could. So anything is really possible.
Yeah, so like do you have any like final advice for anyone watching this? It doesn't have to be related to course careers, but just like in general, some people wanting to break into IT, like any kind of advice.
Yeah, I think you definitely need to make a tech portfolio. You need to make sure that you have certain things that you can show who you are to these hiring managers, because everyone is just a name nowadays. And I work right next to the recruiting department for I work for another $1 billion software company after Disney, right? I listen to how they recruit. And you definitely want to stand out. And the best way to do that is to have a really good tech portfolio, have a good resume that can pass the AI scanners.
Mm.
And you also want to have a cover letter. Don't skip any of those. If you can bring all of that together in a very succinct way, and then you can get through the interview structure of knowing it's recruiter, it's going to be hiring managers, and then usually director. It's usually how it's going to be. If you can get through that, you game plan for that. It's really just, it's a game, right? It's a chess. It's playing chess, not checkers. And if you treat it, a lot of people getting into IT were nerds, right? If you treat us like a video game character, you start off, you have no points, you have no skills, right? But as you slowly go through different missions, you're going to be able to choose and allocate those points. And you're going to be able to take on higher difficulties and higher bosses, get more rewards. It's no different. And when you go through something like your program where you have everything so dialed in, you really have no excuses. You just have to put in the work.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really well said. I feel like you're analogy makes me feel you're super smart because it makes a lot of sense actually. Like the video
I
game.
appreciate that, man. Coming from you, that's awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And then before I end, can you like plug your socials one more time? Like where can people find you?
No, I made this my life's goal this past year and 2 months, like really head first. I went from being the injured guy at FedEx. Everybody knows me as the IT guy now. So, if you guys want to follow a journey of someone from that knew absolutely nothing, I'm goofy and I'm trying to learn as much possible. And you guys can come check me out and see it's actually possible to start from nothing and go to I'm going to the top. That's the plan.
Yeah, it is possible, and your execution is really good. And I think even with like a mediocre plan, if you have good execution, you're going to succeed. And I think your plan is good, and your execution is like super good. So that allowed you to like do a lot really fast. So like good job on all of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the program. You really are providing a great thing to a lot of people, and like people have their legacy. This part of your legacy, man. So I appreciate that. It's an honor to be able to do this video. I hope we can reconvene sometime.
Oh yeah, for sure. And thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.